everyone, class is very much in session and it feels like I've not been here for a little while, what with Japan and Christmas and everything getting in the way, but we're back and we're going to take a look at Monday Night Raw. This week it was from Memphis, Tennessee, which means music and stuff. That's what Memphis is famous for. Walking in Memphis, walking with Elias. He had a very small role on this show. Let's take a look at everything that happened on this show and let's take a look at Monday Night Raw Graded. So we started Raw in very curious fashion with Braun Strowman hitting the ring and saying, oh, I'm going to beat Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble and blah, 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 blah. That's not the curious part. That was very standard, very by the books, textbook opening segment to Monday Night Raw. Note that down. But then it all went a bit left field. Baron Corbin came out and said, no, you're not going to be Brock Lesnar, but I am going to win the Royal Rumble and go somewhere that you will never go, Braun Strowman, and that is the main event of WrestleMania. That again, that's very standard sort of stuff for Monday Night Raw's opening segment. And then he ran to the back and Braun Strowman chased him. And it was very much a game, ooh, chase me. He was chasing him around the backstage area. He threw a Singh brother over catering because the Singh brother was in his way. That's Strowman, of course, not Corbin. And then Elias was there with his guitar and sort of sang him a little riddle and said, follow my instructions, he's over there. To be honest with you, I can't remember what the song sounded like at all. But he pointed towards a limousine and Strowman thought, maybe Corbin is in the limousine. So Strowman runs up to the limo and he smashes the door in with a lead pipe, like Goldberg, but without actually cutting his arm entirely open. Rips the door off and Corbin emerges and runs away. He was either behind the limo or inside it. It was hard to kind of tell. Then Strowman turned round after Corbin had run off and he was like, I'll get you. He turned round and Vinnie Mac was there. Big Vince McMahon, and he did not look pleased. And I thought he was going to say something and he kept going, wah, wah, wah. And then we went to commercial break. But when we came back, Vince was not happy at all. And honestly, this was the bit that shocked me completely. He went, right, you've ruined my limo. You're out of the title match at the Royal Rumble. You're not facing Brock Lesnar anymore. I'll decide on a new opponent, pal. And Strowman was quite rightly like, what are you talking about, mate? Flipped Vince's limousine out of anger and stormed off. And I was just like, it's another instance of a McMahon ripping someone's balls out after being told to wear the authority. In fairness, I guess we've seen Strowman versus Lesnar a lot of times. I'm not too annoyed with this decision outside of kayfabe, but in kayfabe, it seems overly harsh on Braun Strowman, especially when Vince McMahon made his company's name in an era when his top star was smashing up property on a weekly basis to a far more destructive degree than Brawny S. For that reason, for that inconsistency, and for the fact that the whole tone of the opening segment was just weird, I'm going to give this a D-. I thought it was a strange reason to get Strowman out of the title match. I think there's probably some backstage shenanigans that we don't know about. Maybe he was more injured than we previously thought, who knows. But basically, I just thought the whole segment was quite strange. Strowman looked like an idiot. It really buried him as a babyface that we're meant to get behind. He just has a big oaf, which is an image that he's kind of shed recently, but he's got that back entirely now, chasing Corbin around willy-nilly for no real reason other than because he had to for the point of the storyline. D-. Sounds a bit harsh, but it really did not get Raw off to a hot start. Don't worry though, things would improve. This wasn't one of those Raws that was just proper bad. It actually did get quite a lot better. Our opening match was Sasha Banks and Ronda Rousey, who will be opponents, of course, at the Royal Rumble in a tag team match against the team of Nia Jax and Tamina. Now, this match wasn't the smoothest ever in the world or the best worked in the world, but at the same time, I enjoyed the booking here. I enjoyed what they did. It looked as though Sasha Banks was going to struggle and beat the heels and make the hot tag to Ronda. Then she'd come in and clear house and break a few arms, and then the babyfaces would win. Instead, what happened was Sasha outsmarted Nia and Tamina on her own, forced a miscommunication between the pair, and then made Tamina tap out with the Banks statement. I was like, oh, making her look strong ahead of the title match. Good stuff. I thought it was sensible and fun and wonderful. I'm going to give this a B- because yes, we can't ignore the fact that the match was a little bit sloppy Joe in bits and pieces, but at the same time, I enjoyed the booking. So it gets a B-. The match wasn't great, but the booking was very sensible and very good. I'm not sure what to make of the post-match confrontation really, because we had Sasha and Ronda kind of having a bit of an argument, and then Sasha was like, I'm the best, you can't touch me, and walked off. Looked a little bit heelish in a way, and I think if either of them should be the heelish one in the feud, it should probably be Ronda because of what she's been doing to Becky and Charlotte over on SmackDown, rather than Sasha, who the crowd really naturally get behind. On the other hand, if you remember from her NXT days, Sasha's a wonderful heel. So if this is the sort of beginnings of a Sasha Banks heel turn, I won't be too bothered at all. I'd quite like to see that. But yeah, B-, but that doesn't mean it was bad, just it was sloppy, and I can't forgive that, but it was still good in a way. Next up, another tag match between the Revival and two members of the Lucha House Party, Gran Metalik and Kalisto. Minus points straight off the bat for the fact that it did not feature my boy, Lince Dorado. But at the same time, I just wish there was a way that all three members of the Lucha House Party could be in the same sort of standard tag match at the same time, but I just can't think of what that would be. Okay, no, I'm not actually calling for the return of Lucha House Rules, God no, I'm not doing that. But there were still one or two things wrong with this match. It was alright, this to sort of contrast it with the previous match, the action was okay-ish, but the booking really wasn't for me. So the Revival won in heelish fashion, which is fine, knocking one of their opponent's feet off the ropes. I think it might have been Kalisto, I can't remember which one it was, but they knocked his foot off the ropes when he was trying to break a pinfall, and he suffered the pinfall, and the Revival got a cheap victory, but one that really showed their heel intellect and their smarts and their experience as a tag team. So that was cool, that was good. It's always nice to see the Revival get a win. I'm going to give it a C though, because it was nothing spectacular, it was quite short, and it never got into the gear that I know that both these teams can operate at. And also as well, the feud is continuing. Like, just get the Revival away from the Lucha House Party, please. Please, because they deserve more. The Lucha House Party deserve fresh opponents as well, and I'm just so sick of this feud. It feels like it's taken years off my life. I know it hasn't, but it very much feels like it has. Another reason this segment only gets to see is because we got some weird sort of, this was the theme throughout the night actually, and I'll just run through most of them here. So we got, in bits and pieces, we saw NXT call-ups kind of lurking backstage or doing a little bit, but not really. It was a very strange way of calling them up. Really made nobody feel particularly special in a weird way. So for example, in this match, we cut backstage to EC3, who was about to get interviewed, but he just smiled. Or like at one point we saw Lacey Evans just sort of chatting to Mickie James, I think it was, backstage in the background of a backstage segment. Again, I don't really know what the point of that was. Just before I started recording this video, Adam Pacitti pointed out to me that WWE have said they're going to try out these NXT call-ups on both Raw and SmackDown before determining which brand they end up on. So yeah, it's a curious way of introducing them to the main roster. I'm not sure why they've done it, because I think historically WWE have done a great job of bringing these really hyped indie stars up from NXT into the main roster and making them feel special, even if that doesn't last. I think they do a good job of making everyone feel immediately special. This new system makes less of them feel special, and I don't really know why they've done it. And it dragged down a segment a little bit, and that wasn't even the fault of Dash or Dawson or Kalisto or Gran Metalik, and certainly not the fault of Lince Dorado. Meow. Oh, no, Jack. Next up, a segment that I very much enjoyed actually. Vince McMahon hit the ring. No chance. That's what you're going put the plan out. Before you could say a word, John Cena hit the ring with his lovely new hair and said basically, well, John wasn't the only one to hit the ring. All four guys who would end up being in the main event of the night to become the new #1 contender for Lesnar's title ended up in the ring. And each one of them had a reason why they should be put into that match. So, and all of the reasons made perfect sense as well. I liked it. Cena's reason was because of his years of dedication to the company and the fact that he, more than anyone else, has ruthless aggression. A callback to when he first started on SmackDown, I think it was, sort of 15 years ago now. Christ. Then Drew McIntyre hit the ring, and his sort of reasoning was really good as well. He was like, look, that's old ruthless aggression. If you want to see what the face of new ruthless aggression looks like, it's me, Drew McIntyre, which I thought was good way of positioning him as the next big thing. Then Baron Corbin came out and said, well, I should get the title shot because of what Strowman did to me earlier, and he sort of teased like legal action as well, which is really cheap, but it fits Baron Corbin's smarmy heel character, so that's pretty good as well. And then Finn Bálor came out and said, look, I deserve this shot because unlike all of these guys in the ring, I am a former Universal Champion and I'm sick of being left out of these discussions, which is exactly what fans have been saying now for quite some time. So I like that they actually lampshaded that and brought it to everybody's attention and acknowledged it. That was really cool. Then Vince McMahon kind of channeled this whole attitude that we perceive him to have towards Bálor, which was good as well because it got heat, where he said, oh, I know you're quick and like agile and stuff, but I don't know if you've got the beef to face these other men or to beat these other men, because Balor's small, and it's always been a thing that people have thought has held him back on the main roster, which was good. It was good that Vince mentioned that, because then Bálor went, right, I know you're Vince McMahon, you're stubborn, you're never going to change your mind through anything I say, so how about I show you instead? Bang! Punch Baron Corbin in the face. Corbin rolled out the way and avoided everything else that went down. It turned into a little three-way brawl between Cena, McIntyre and Bálor, and McIntyre stood tall and looked at Vince and kind of went, there you go. And Vince got on the mic and went, I like this, let's have a fatal four-way later in the night, and the winner will be the #1 contender at the Rumble. Thought it was a great segment, A- for me. Nothing special, nothing spectacular, but just a simple segment, written quite well, especially for, WWE is often criticised for its writing, especially on Raw, but it was written well, everything made sense, and it set up an exciting main event later on. A-, no complaints here whatsoever. Next up, we had the Riott Squad versus the mishmash babyface team of Bayley, Natalya, and Nikki Cross, which was kind of, again, another instance, I think, of these NXT call-ups not being treated especially well, but out of all of them on this show, Nikki Cross had the best debut, so that's, or second debut or third, or however many times she's already appeared on the main roster, but she looked the best out of all the NXT call-ups on this show. She played a key role in her babyface team's victory over the Riott Squad. She hit Liv Morgan with a rope-assisted sort of twisting DDT thing. Bayley got a big elbow drop off the top and pinned Liv Morgan for the 1, 2, 3. The babyface team win. Hooray! Let's have a party. Wacky waving inflatable party. I'm going to give this a C+, because if we compare it to the other women's tag match, as I said, that match didn't have the best action, but the booking was alright. It made Sasha look cool. In this match, the action again was a little bit sloppy in parts, in bits and pieces, but at the same time, it made Nikki Cross look alright. I'd have liked to see her pick up the pinfall actually, rather than Bayley, but I get kind of why her role was maybe a little bit reduced. They might be introducing her a little bit slowly. Thought it was fine. Didn't think Nikki Cross was the best fit for a babyface team featuring Bayley, who's really nice, Natalya, who's really nice, and then Nikki, this wild woman from Scotland. It's I kind of get it to a degree, but I think it could have been managed a little bit more carefully. But, I think C+ is a fair grade. Nothing wrong with it. It was a decent introduction to Nikki Cross. So then backstage, at some point, Jinder Mahal's found Vince McMahon and said to him, look, I'm Jinder Mahal. I should obviously be the #1 contender for Brock Lesnar's title. And then Vince, for some reason, just totally accepted that and believed him. I don't really understand why, but he said to him, I got a little bit confused here. He either said, pick a man from the main event, from the Fatal 4-Way that's going to happen, wrestle them, and then if you win, you'll either get a shot in the Royal Rumble or you'll get their place in the main event later on. I wasn't quite certain what he meant here. But either way, Jinder was like, yeah, cool, I picked Finn Balor. Him and Finn Balor had a match. Jinder and the Sings jumped Balor beforehand, and eventually Balor picked up a victory, which was pretty damn cool, to be fair. It was nice to see Balor win. I was originally going to give this segment just a C and go, well, what was the point of that? I get to see. But in the context of the wider sort of Raw, the wider show, and what happened later on, I'm going to bump it up to a B-. It served a purpose that I didn't initially see. Next up, an IC title triple threat match between Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Bobbington Lashley, featuring Lio Rush, of course, as well. Before the match, we had a backstage promo where Dean Ambrose talked about right and wrong, and it was a really weirdly written promo. I didn't quite understand what he was talking about. Again, with Dean Ambrose, it's not his fault, he delivered it well, it's just the script is kind of all over the place, really overly abstract, and I just want him to have more clear motivations, because he'll go, blah, 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 mystical stuff, pestilence and plague, and then he'll go, also, Memphis, Tennessee, and everyone goes, boo, and I was just like, give him a motive, come on. But I think at one point he might have dropped in a Scott Steiner reference, because he said, I don't care about the odds, I don't care whether it's 50-50 or 33 1/3%. I was like, yes, call out Smo Joe, tell him you're going to beat him at Sacrifice, call out Kurt Angle when you add Kurt Angle to the mix, but he didn't do any of that. Luckily though, the match was a bloody excellent one. The timing here was absolutely great by all three guys all throughout the match, and Lio Rush as well. For example, at one point, Rollins looked like he had the match won with a Falcon Arrow on Ambrose, but Lio Rush slid in to break it up, and obviously there's no DQ rules because it's a triple threat. Excellent stuff. All three guys really timed everything really well. The ending was really exciting too, where Rollins seemed to have Dean Ambrose bent over for the curb stomp, hit the ropes, and then Lio Rush popped up and pulled down the rope and Rollins spilled to the outside. Lashley charged, bam, huge spear to Dean Ambrose. 1, 2, 3, Bobby Lashley is the new IC champion, which is not a result that I would have initially liked to have seen, because I feel like Dean Ambrose has been treated a little bit unfairly, but at the same time, I've kind of got to agree, his heel stuff hasn't been working that well at the moment. Maybe he'd be better taking time away from a title picture to regroup, and hopefully the writers can refocus his character and he can come back in another feud better than ever. Yeah, Lashley looked better here than I've seen him in a long time, which was really nice to see. And Rollins was wrestling excellently as per usual. This gets an A-. I thought it was wonderful, really good match, probably my favourite match on the show in fact. And yeah, Bobby Lashley's the new IC champion. I hope we see more of his sweet backside, his lovely bottom in the future. I'd given sensible analysis and then I had to go and say something like that, didn't I? Didn't I? Next up, we had a moment of Bliss, Alexa's talk show segment thing. This was the weirdest thing on the whole show, right? There were several things wrong with this, and there were several things right with this. And I've given it, I'll tell you the grade ahead of time. I gave it a B- because the overriding message, I think, of this segment was a good one. The positives outweigh the negatives, but it was weird as well. It was really, really strange. So the positives first, the good stuff. Alexa unveiled the new women's tag team titles and they looked great. Lovely set of tag titles. I thought this was a really nice sort of way of unveiling them. I thought Alexa did a great job and I thought that they looked good. And the way that the titles are going to be decided was really good as well. That's the other major positive point of this segment. Alexa said at Elimination Chamber, 3 tag teams from Raw and 3 from SmackDown will go into the Elimination Chamber and the winners will hold the tag team titles. Great stuff. No complaints there whatsoever. I thought that was great. The titles look good. It's all good. Then Heyman came out and, well, first of all, right, let's just list the negatives of this segment. First of all, before the segment actually happened on stage, backstage, a stagehand kind of walked in and Alexa Bliss was topless and covered herself with her clothes. She was like, oh, get out. Oh my God, what's going on? I was like, is this sort of 1999 again? What's going on here? Like, it was tonally very, very off. It was stuck in the dark ages. Anyway, the other major negative for me was the Otis Dozovic stuff, which some people found funny, I suppose. I found it baffling. It was funny to a degree, but it was also really strange, and I'm worried that it's made Heavy Machinery, who were a great tag team on NXT, look like idiots straight off the bat. So Heyman's out there with Alexa Bliss as her guest, cutting a promo on why Lesnar's great. He put over Drew McIntyre in the midst of the promo, which I like to see. He was like, I've had my eye on Drew for a long time. He's going to be a champion one day, but not at the Royal Rumble. Great stuff. And then he was like, right, so he's basically hyping up Lesnar, and he's like, Alexa, pay attention to me, please, because she keeps on like getting distracted by something in the background. Guess what? It's Otis Dozovic running around saying stuff like pretty ladies, and I can't do an Otis Dozovic impression. I wish I could, but I don't understand what the aim of this was. He ranted and raved for a bit. Alexa and Paul Heyman were like, what's going on here? Tuck and I ran out and went, oh, come on, Otis, get to the back. The road agents helped get him to the back. And Alexa and Heyman were just like, what was that? And that was the end of the segment. The fact that I'm giving this a B- is baffling to me, but I really like the design of the tag titles. I really like the match that it's going to be sort of fought under in the Elimination Chamber. So miraculously, somehow, this segment has got a B-, but by the skin of its teeth. And finally, the main event of the night, the number 1 contenders fatal 4-way match between Cena, Drew, Bálor and Corbin. This match felt really unique. I think that's because John Cena was involved and we don't see him that much these days, so that was really cool to see. And he did well. He worked well with everybody involved. The finishing sequence, like about 2/3 of the way through this match, things really kicked into a higher gear and delivered us some of the most exciting wrestling of the night. John Cena hit like a super AA on Bálor, but then Corbin ran in and chucked Cena out and tried to take advantage, but Bálor kicked out, looking really strong, kicking out of Cena's super finisher. That was really good to see. Then I think it was Cena ran back in, hit the AA on Corbin, but then Drew was in, Claymore to Cena, and then Finn Bálor fought off Drew, threw him outside the ring and hit the coup de grace on Cena and pinned him. It doesn't make Cena look weak because he took 2 finishes in a row, that's fair enough. But it did make Bálor look really good because he didn't just rely on Drew's finisher, he was able to fight off Drew and hit his own. Also made Drew look good because he's got a claim, he could realistically say, I should have won that match, I had Cena beat with the Claymore and then Finn threw me out the ring. It works on various levels, I liked it. The match took a little while to get going, but the payoff was all worth it. And Finn Bálor is the new number 1 contender. I don't for a second think he's going to beat Brock Lesnar. I don't think anyone really believes that. But I think that Lesnar can make him look very, very good in defeat. And if he was to beat him, I mean, that would be the biggest upset since Goldberg beat Lesnar in a few seconds. So that was really good to see. I'm going to give this an A-. I thought the aftermath with Cena just blatantly going, Finn Bálor, he's the next best thing, like the next big thing. I didn't think that was needed. I think Bálor should have allowed his actions to speak for themselves. We didn't need Cena endorsing him. But at the same time, I guess if you want to hammer home to the kids that Finn's the new cool guy on the block, who better to do it than John Cena? A-, I think. I can't decide whether I prefer this match or the IC one, but they were both good. Both finished off Raw on a strong note. Don't know what Otis Dozovic was doing in between the 2 segments. Overall, I'm going to give this Raw a B grade. It was pretty good, actually, in spite of its negative qualities, because there was quite a lot of filler matches, quite a lot of negative stuff, but it was topped off by 2 really good matches, the Triple Threat and the Fatal 4-Way. The reason that I've dragged it down slightly from a B+, though, is the weird introduction of the NXT people, with the exception of Nikki Cross, I think, who looked the best out of all of them. But Let someone make an impact. Don't just have EC3 smiling backstage, Lacey Evans chatting to someone in the background. Have them do stuff. Don't have Otis Dozovic going pretty ladies. Like what was that about? I genuinely don't know. I'm going to calm down. I'm going to maintain my B grade for Raw from Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com, and this has been Graded. If you want to, you can follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic and check out our Patreon too, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, if you haven't done so already, to hit subscribe and to join us.